December 20th, 3:11 p.m. District Court. Defendant Lobby, number 5.
I did a little research. I looked into those special Psyche-Locks you mentioned, Mr. Nick.
You did? That's great. I really appreciate it.
A Red Psyche-Lock protects a secret a person is consciously trying to hide. If the person folds under questioning, the lock breaks and the truth comes out.
Yup, that's exactly how I got the truth out of Detective Fulbright and Director Cosmos.
But a Black Psyche-Lock protects a secret from the deepest place in a person's heart. A secret that the person isn't even consciously aware of.
So even they don't know it's there?
Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and her memories are sealed off, even from herself.
Okay, so all I have to do is break the Psyche-Locks.
According to my research, a Black Psyche-Lock is like a heavy chain wrapped directly around one's heart. If they are ripped off by force, it could cause permanent damage to a person's soul.
In other words, if I'm not careful, I could traumatize Athena for good. Pearls, could you stay by Athena's side? She must be suffering under the weight of such a heavy burden.
Alright, but will you be alright by yourself, Mr. Nick?
I'm up against Edgeworth. I have to be able to give this trial all of my focus and strength.
And you can't do that if I'm there. I'll just hold you back.
No, that's not it. I just meant I can relax and concentrate if I knew you were with Athena. You're the only one who could do it, Pearls.
Alright. I'll do it then. Good luck, Mr. Nick.
Good. Now that my mind is at ease, I better get ready. I'll just tidy up the evidence and take out what I don't need. It's time to end this nightmare that started 7 years ago. December 20th, District Court, Courtroom number 4. Defense, prosecution, and judge. There are even people in the gallery. The roof has been completely blown off and the walls have collapsed. But today, this ruin is my battleground. All rise. Court, or some facsimile thereof, is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Not a facsimile, old man. This is a proper official trial. Take this more seriously, or you'll start hearing the bones of the hostages snap.
Please try not to upset Miss Blackquill. I'm begging you. Court is now in session for the very serious and very proper trial of Athena Sykes. This is no trial. It's nothing more than a ridiculous farce.
What did you say?
Edgeworth, did you not hear what I just said to His Honor? However, this ridiculous farce has a very important meaning for our legal system. Recall the case of the UR1 incident, in which a prosecutor was found guilty of murder. That case ushered in the odious dark age of the law.
I see what you're after. If we can find the real truth behind that case today.
Precisely. The darkness will be dispelled and glory shall be restored to the court system. Prosecutor Edgeworth, you sound as if you know something of this truth. I do indeed. A new suspect has emerged in the UR1 case. For 7 years, Simon Blackquill has refused to speak in order to cover for someone else. Brace yourself, Phoenix. Here it comes. I'm sorry, Wright, but the situation is what it is, and I must do what I must. The prosecution moves to indict Athena Sykes on the count of murder in the first degree.
Regardless the circumstance, I intend to question the defendant with all I have. For that is a part of my creed.
Then you'd better bring it.
If the two of you are ready. Court is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
The prosecution is also ready.
This immense tension between us. It's like we're picking up right where we left off. It's my duty to clear Prosecutor Blackquill of false accusations and end this insanity. But I have no intention of losing Miss Sykes either. She's a very promising young lawyer. I'll be back. Time to do this. I know without a doubt that Athena is innocent. But I don't think Prosecutor Blackquill did it either. So, do you have any clue who was responsible for the sabotage? At the very least, I know it wasn't Simon Blackquill. I don't know enough to identify the true culprit, but it's clear what that person is. To put it simply, a spy. The true culprit is a spy. It's going to be hard to convince anyone of that when I barely believe it myself. But I don't have a choice if I want to save Athena and Blackquill and expose the spy. Now then, Chief Prosecutor Edgeworth. No need for the Chief Prosecutor bit, Your Honor. I am here as a simple prosecutor. Very well, your opening statement, please, Prosecutor Edgeworth. Although I've been known of late to give an impressive opening statement myself. In all the trials I have ever seen, only the prosecution gives an opening statement. Of course, you're right. I was just joking. Just have a little fun. So he wasn't doing them just out of fear. Interesting. Let's start with a brief overview of the UR1 incident. The incident occurred at the Cosmos Space Center 7 years ago on October 7th. The victim, psychologist Meta Sykes, was killed in the robotics lab on the 4th floor. Athena's mother. Simon Blackquill, a young prosecutor at the time, was found guilty of the crime. There were two deciding factors that led to his guilty verdict. One, Blackquill was the only person in the corridor or the lab at the time of the murder. And two, this photo, which captured the moment of the crime. Very incriminating evidence indeed. It would appear the only conclusion is that Prosecutor Blackquill did indeed. Are you kidding me? I'm not accepting any conclusion of the kind. This opening statement is over. Now hurry up and call the witness. Excuse me, Miss Blackquill, but we must follow proper procedure for these things, you know? Or perhaps we should heed her wishes, Your Honor. She is the trial's sponsor, after all. Besides, the courtroom is chilly and sitting for too long can't be good for your back. Oh, you are very kind to show such concern for the welfare of the elderly. As skilled as ever as playing the court puppeteer, I see. The prosecution called its first witness. A witness who decided to bring forth new testimony after 7 long years. New testimony? And just who is this witness anyway? Bobby Fulbright's the name, in justice we trust. What are you doing here? I'm just here to speak for the hostage taker, Miss Sora Blackquill. She says she's too busy with confining and threatening the hostages and all. That doesn't seem to stop her from constantly climbing and chiming through Clonko. I'm nothing more than an observer in this. Do your best. I'm watching you. Believing her brother innocent, Miss Blackquill had been conducting her own investigation. And though her current actions are hardly lawful, I think we at least hear her theory. I have here Miss Blackwell's notes on the investigation she conducted. And I'll be given testimony based on these notes. Here I go. Witness testimony, or Blackwell's theory. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone. Someone else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside. That's why. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes. And that's Miss Blackwell's theory. It totally goes in the face of the official ruling, huh? About the case she mentions, there were other rolling cases like that one in the lab. But they're not for traveling. They're apparently for moving parts and equipment. I vaguely remember seeing 3 cases, all different sizes. At the last trial, they thought that Prosecutor Blackquill used the case to steal the rock. And they had a perfectly good reason to think that, too.
You see, there's a security camera in the corridor that leads to the robotics lab, and that camera captured footage of Blackquill leaving the scene with the case.
I can see why the footage helped to bring his trial to a quick end. It's very convincing, that's for sure.
7-year-old video updated. That case, by the way, was later discovered outside on the Space Center grounds. Speaking of after the incident, where was the defendant Athena Sykes found? She was found on the 5th floor in the Space Center in the Sykes family residence. Prosecutor Blackquill most likely brought her there after the incident. In addition, it's unknown where Miss Sykes was at the estimated time of death. Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock of her mother's death to give proper testimony, and there was no witness or evidence to tell us where she might have been.
So what you're saying is Miss Sykes didn't have an alibi?
That is what the evidence is saying, yes. I understand the reasoning behind the theory, but I'm far from convinced. The victim is the accused mother. Are you actually claiming an 11-year-old girl? Of course, the girl had a very strong motive. Dr. Sykes was a psychologist who wrote many papers about speech and emotions. You're aware of Athena Sykes' special ability, haven't you? Are you referring to that therapy thing? Yes, she's done it quite a few times in court.
The ability to read emotions from speech and the subject of her mother's research.
Well, as long as it benefits society, I don't see any particular problem researching it.
I don't like where this is heading. Not one bit.
Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments. Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you seriously suggesting?
I've done my best to be delicate, but even you can't deny it to be true, Mr. Wright.
No longer able to withstand the anguish of the experiments, Miss Sykes felt her only choice was to kill her own mother.
Ah!
Order in the court. What a tragic story. I hardly want to believe it myself. But if we must proceed, Mr. Wright, if you could, Detective Fulbright, please refer to the notes. There's not much we can do in the meantime. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone. Someone else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside. That's why. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes.
Hold it!
But that's nothing more than conjecture. It's hardly the only possibility.
In that case, what do you think Prosecutor Blackquill had in that case?
I think it was the moon rock.
Objection!
There were 3 cases at the scene, but Prosecutor Blackquill used the largest one. The moon rock was egg-shaped and only about 8 inches in diameter. It wouldn't have made sense to use the largest case there to move that rock.
Objection!
Be that as it may, it doesn't prove Miss Sykes was inside.
Then let me ask you this. Can you come up with a better theory of what was in the case? Well, Mr. Wright, can you?
Yikes. Give a guy some time to think. Let's see.
Should I try to bluff my way, though, what could have been in that case? Yes.
I know exactly what Prosecutor Blackquill carried from the scene. I just have to find something else that was missing, right? No sweat.
Ooh, I'd be very interested in hearing your theory, if it's true, that is.
This is a crime scene photo taken after Prosecutor Blackquill left, correct? All we have to do is compare this with this photo of Prosecutor Blackquill to see what's missing. If he took something with him, then it should be in one of those photos. Lady Luck, don't fail me now.
All right then, Mr. Wright. Let us hear your theory. What did Prosecutor Blackquill take from the scene of the murder? The robot part.
Take that!
Please notice that there is a robot part on top of the cart in this photo. However, in the photo taken after the crime, the robot part is gone. In other words, this part is something that was taken from the scene of the crime.
You do appear to be right. I don't see it in the second picture.
But it's just a piece of junk. How important could it be? Is it really just an insignificant robot part?
Speaking of which,
What are you looking at? I'm gonna start charging for each glance per eyeball. Stingy, stingy. What happened to the age of free previews?
ahem, Your Honor, about this robot part.
Does it look like it could be an arm for that robot there?
Well, now that you mention it, it does, doesn't it? But if the case is still too big to be practical for just a moon rock and a robot arm.
But was it really just the one arm that was in there? If it wasn't Athena in the case, then maybe.
I believe there was another robot at the scene that looks just like this one here. BRB.
That was quick. Let's continue.
Your Honor, it is the defense's assertion that it was this other robot that was in the case. What?
Objection!
We can't be certain that part belonged to a robot. Yes, it looks like the arm of the one before us, but it could be something else entirely. Besides, it's wrapped entirely in bandaging, making it difficult to verify what it is.
Objection!
I know for a fact that it is a robot arm. I can even tell which robot it belonged to, just by looking at it. With this information, we can investigate whether it was there at the time or not. But Mr. Wright, I thought you were more of the technologically illiterate type. When did you become such an expert? I feel somehow abandoned.
Not to worry, Your Honor. I still know next to nothing about machines. But I know this piece of evidence proves which robot the arm belonged to. The Hat 1 exhibit.
Take that!
The robot in the picture is named Ponko. But take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that.
She must have thought that machines heal in the same way that people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild.
The robot arm in the crime scene had the same bandaging wrapped around it. In other words, this robot arm could belong to none other than Ponko.
Order in the court! Order, I say! Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you have to say to this?
I can see that the robot is about the same size as a child, but it cannot grab its knees and curl itself up into a ball. Even if it was the largest of the cases, the robot couldn't have possibly fit in there. The case does come up to about mid-thigh on Prosecutor Blackquill. I see your point. The robot is much taller than that.
They've got me there.
So then, did Prosecutor Blackquill made Ponko fit in the case by dismantling her? Of course Ponko would fit. All Prosecutor Blackquill had to do was dismantle her. Once taken apart, the robot could have easily fit inside that rolling case. It appears to be a robot assembly device. Disassemble anything in a flash. Push the dismantle button. That sounds pretty neat. Can I push it, Mr. Nick? It sounds rather violent, but Mr. Wright does have a point there.
Objection!
Except that there was a body on the table where robots are dismantled and assembled. There would have been no room to take the robot apart.
Objection!
But what if it wasn't done on the table? What if the katana was used instead?
You mean the sword?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Blackwell, I like your opinion as a woman of science. Isn't it true that the katana could have been used to take the robot apart? I suppose so. Their joints aren't made of a very tough material. A blade could slice through them. Thank you for your expert opinion, Miss Blackwell. Thanks to you, we now know that the existence of the severed arm in the photo proves that Ponko was taken apart. In addition, since the rest of Ponko was not found on the scene, we can conclude that the true meaning of this photo is very different from the original interpretation.
You can't mean...
That's exactly what I mean. This photo does not capture the moment of the murder. It is instead a picture of the moment after the robot was sliced apart. The part you can see where the arm was cut off was transferred there by the bloody katana. Most likely the rest of Ponko was scattered around Prosecutor Blackwell's feet.
Not hearing this!
Therefore, what was transported inside the case was not the defendant, but a robot. Miss Sykes never was at the scene at the time of the murder. Ah! My head! My body! Where am I? Yeah! The truth sucks, but what can you do?
Order in the court!
It's true that Ponko was found in pieces after the murder. And I'll admit I repaired her myself afterwards.
Yep.
Yes, I'm finally making some progress. Hopefully I've gotten at least one step closer to proving both Athena and Prosecutor Blackquill innocent.
Objection!
Well played, Mr. Wright. You've made your point abundantly clear. I can see that it wasn't the defendant inside the rolling case, but the robot.
Alright, what's going on here? It's never good when he plays things like this straight.
Does the prosecution withdraw its claim that the defendant was carried from the scene? No, Your Honor. My claim hasn't changed.
Objection!
But Ponko and Miss Sykes couldn't have both been inside that case.
Objection!
The notion that the case was used to carry Miss Sykes was Miss Blackwill's theory. I have been of a different opinion from the outset. Now I finally have the opportunity to voice my theory. Thanks to the defense.
Edgeworth, he's been one step ahead of me this whole time.
In that case, how do you propose the defendant left the crime scene? Simple. The footage only shows Prosecutor Blackquill from behind. What's more, he's holding his arm in front of his body, as if he were holding something, or someone.
That's hardly evidence.
I have proof. The surcoat Prosecutor Blackquill was wearing. The victim's blood was found on the front of it, and the stain had a highly distinctive shape. A blood stain with a distinctive shape? Please continue, Prosecutor Edgeworth. 7 years ago, the defendant was known to constantly wear a certain item, of which there is only one in the world, a special pair of headphones made just for her.
She always wore these big, heavy-looking headphones. She said her mother made them for her as part of her research.
Analysis showed the bloodstain to be in the exact same shape as those headphones. In other words, this was no mere blood splatter. The blood went from the victim's body to the headphones, and then was imprinted onto Prosecutor Blackwill's coat like a stamp. A most gruesome stamp indeed. Blackquill carried Miss Sykes, who had been hit by splatter, away from the crime scene. This proves that Athena Sykes was without question present at the crime scene. And that concludes the prosecution's argument.
Yeah!
Order! If the defendant was indeed at the scene, it deepens the suspicion against him.
Objection!
But we've also shown that the robot was there at the scene as well.
Objection!
I hope you're not making the ridiculous claim that a simple robot was the real murderer.
I don't really think that, no, but you can't say the possibility isn't there. Detective Fulbright was the robot questioned at the time.
No, I don't see any record of it. I believe it was considered unrelated to the case.
But as it turned out, the robot was actually integrally related. Your Honor, the defense would like to call Ponko to the stand.
A robot witness? Order in the court! Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you think about this? Mr. Wright has called all manner of witnesses to the stand over the years, so why not a robot? Nothing surprises me anymore with him. Very well, I will allow the witness. Bailiff, please summon the robot named Ponko. Witness, please state your name and occupation.
My name is not Witness. My name is Ponko.
Yes, I realize that, but when you are at the witness stand, you are the witness.
No, I'm not. I'm Ponko. Say it with me. Ponko.
What an utterly inflexible little robot. You're the last person who should be calling anybody inflexible. You remind me of my grandchild who just learned his own name. Well, precious. All right, Ponko. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Questions? You have questions? Hooray! What are your questions?
I want to know if you were there at the scene of the murder of Miss Sykes. It was 7 years ago on the 7th of October around 2 p.m. in the robotics lab.
Certainly. Just one moment.
Searching data. Search complete. Yes, I was there in the robotics lab.
It would seem this robot's testimony is necessary to this case after all.
This is great. I just knew Ponko must have seen something important. A murder committed right before this poor little girl's eyes. It's inexcusable. The judge seems ready to adopt Ponko as another grandchild. So, little Ponko, do you think you can give us your testimony today?
Witness testimony. What I saw. I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. After I charged up, I was cleaning the room and Mr. Simon came in. And then an error occurred. There is no data after that point.
Well, it sounds like the defendant was, without question, at the scene. However, it doesn't appear that the witness saw the actual moment of the murder. I disagree. This testimony shows that the defendant did indeed commit the crime. What? At the end of the day, we mustn't forget that this witness is still a machine. Being a robot, its understanding and capacity to express itself are limited. So what are you suggesting? The witness's statements need to be interpreted. For example, the terms hugged and then later fell down. Adults don't usually fall down after being hugged by a child. They don't, but... Yes, what this witness's statements are telling us is that the defendant stabbed the victim with the murder weapon during this moment. What?! Before Mr. Sykes hugged Dr. Sykes, did the two of them converse?
Yes, they did. They spoke to each other very loudly, but I don't know what they said. Athena's usually so quiet, so I was surprised.
Spoke very loudly. We can interpret this to mean they argued. I see. Murder after a heated argument. And then the victim fell down. I agree that it does sound like a reasonable interpretation. However, Ponko doesn't seem to remember anything that happened after that.
When I am recharging, I go into sleep mode. But I remember everything before that. I have a very good memory.
You may as well admit defeat now, Wright. A cross-examination would be useless.
Don't be ridiculous. A cross-examination is never useless.
Until now, think about it. Robots don't lie. This robot is both an important witness and valuable evidence at the same time. Nevertheless, I will have my cross-examination. I see you haven't changed. You never were one to worry about wasting time. Very well, even if it may be a waste of time, you may proceed, Mr. Wright.
I'll show you both just how fruitful any cross-examination can be.
Okay then, let's find out.
I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything.
Hold it! I don't want to delve too deeply here, but could you tell us how the victim appeared and acted at this moment?
Mommy Metis was very surprised when she was hugged. I heard her heart pound.
Her heart? Mr. Wright, have you forgotten about this document we found in the robotics lab? These robots have a heartbeat detection system. Now that he mentions it, I do remember reading something like that there. They detect the presence of people by the sound of their heartbeats.
But wait a minute. That means if Dr. Sykes really did die at this moment.
Ponko, how was Dr. Sykes after she fell down? Could you still hear the sound of her heartbeat?
Let's see. The moment she fell, her heart was pounding. After that, I don't know. I started recharging just then.
For all the unlucky timing, if you had heard anything after that, it could have possibly proved that the hug wasn't actually the moment of the murder.
I'm very sorry. I'm afraid I don't know. I'm very sorry.
The robot is designed to go into sleep mode automatically, so it can't be helped. But it does appear it detected an increased heart rate at this moment of the stabbing.
After Mommy Metis' heart started pounding in surprise, she fell by the window. It was the round window on the workbench side of the room.
The workbench, huh?
Ponko must be talking about that table to the right where that giant robot is now. Is there something critical in Ponko's statement just now?
There is.
Your Honor, I believe the statement is critical. I'd like it added to her testimony.
Very well. Ponko, could you please add that statement to your testimony? That's a good little girl.
Mommy Metis fell down near the round window on the workbench side of the room.
Is that so?
Objection!
Ponko, your statement may have just inspired a breakthrough.
I was helpful? Hooray! I'm so happy!
Just to be sure, let's go over it again, okay? The victim fell near the window on the workbench side of the room. However, her body was discovered on the operating table.
But the operating table and the workbench are two different locations.
Exactly, Your Honor. We just learned a new crucial fact. What could explain the two very different locations of the body? I'll tell you what, the victim moved. An 11-year-old girl couldn't have moved the heavy body of an adult. So the only explanation is that the victim walked the operating table herself. In other words, what Ponko observed near the workbench couldn't possibly have been the moment of the murder.
Phew, I am very relieved to hear that. Glad to know that the murder wasn't committed in front of little Ponko here.
Yes, as we just heard in the testimony, Miss Sykes hugged her mother. Nothing more.
Objection!
Right. It's been 8 years, but you're still just as green as ever. Green? But I can't recall ever seeing Mr. Wright in anything but a blue suit.
Hey, blue's my favorite color. What can I say?
If the defendant couldn't move the body herself, she could have had it moved for her.
Moved for her? But Miss Sykes and Dr. Sykes were the only ones there.
I agree. Since this robot is equipped with a heartbeat detection system, it would have been aware of another person's presence if someone else had been there. We can therefore conclude that the defendant and the victim were the only ones present. Then who do you suggest moved the body?
Don't you know it's in the nature of a robot to help people do things?
Miss Ponko, allow me to ask you a question.
My name is Ponko. Say it with me. Ponko.
I believe you said you were cleaning after Dr. Sykes fell down. Did you happen to move something large onto the operating table?
Yes, I did. Athena asked me to.
Athena asked you to? And what did you move, little Ponko?
I don't know. Unless something has an ID tag, I can't tell what it is.
An ID tag, you say?
Yes, a tag with a barcode on it. We robots scan them to tell us what a thing is.
That paper in the lab did mention something about that. Recognizes people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform jacket ID tag, it said.
So it would appear that Miss Ponko here can't identify what it moved.
My name is Ponko!
But we humans have the power to imagine what it was, do we not? We do? Well, I do at the very least. Miss Ponko, on the defendant's command, move the body to the operating table.
Ah!
Ponko, did you really move Dr. Sykes' body? This is really important. Is there any way you could tell?
I don't know. Without an ID tag, I can't tell.
Give it up, Wright. If the victim's heart was stopped, the robot's detection system would be useless. Furthermore, Dr. Sykes usually wore her white coat while she was working. She kept the jacket with her IT on it draped over a chair in the robotics lab, and only wore it for special occasions. In other words, the victim wasn't wearing her ID tag at the time. From the robot's point of view, her body was simply just another object.
Objection!
But Ponko is equipped with a facial recognition system. If she really did move the victim, she would have recognized the body as Dr. Sykes. But she didn't. So that means...
Objection!
A face can easily be covered with a piece of cloth, a mask, or anything else for that matter. With the facial features hidden, the robot wouldn't be able to tell it was Dr. Sykes.
He's right.
To summarize, Miss Sykes stabbed her mother near the workbench. Then using the robot, she moved the body to the table, where she removed the sword and was stained in blood. Order! But if that's the case, then I have a question. Why did the defendant move the body to the operating table in the first place?
You want a reason?
Very well.
What? You can't possibly have an explanation. Your emotions blind you to the truth. You can learn a lot from our robot friends. Calm and rational thought will open your eyes to the truth in front of you, Mr. Wright. Now then, do you remember the operating table's one special feature? I believe I read that robots can be assembled and disassembled there, isn't that right? That's right. And to the defendant, who was just a child at the time, the table was like a magic box that could make robots appear or disappear in seconds. But in the end, my mom just put her on the operating table and fixed her in a flash. I was so impressed by what my mom did. I even asked her if she would put me on the table and fix me if I ever got hurt. It looked just like magic to me what she could do. You can't possibly be suggesting. This young sheltered girl had a difficult time distinguishing robots from people. But take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that. She must have thought that machines heal in the same way that people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild. No way. I refuse to believe it. Miss Sykes made a childish, naive, and cruel mistake. She thought that if a robot could be dismantled and vanish without a trace... Prosecutor Edgeworth, if you're about to claim what I think you are, I demand that you word it as delicately as you can. With all due respect, Your Honor, all I can do is present the truth as it stands. The reason the defendant moved the victim's body to the operating table...
Hold it!
No! Don't say another word! Just stop! Was to dismantle the evidence so that she could get away with her crime. That can't be. True! Order in the court! Order in the court, I say! Edgeworth, she was just a little kid. How can you say such a horrible thing? Horrible? Like I said, you're just as green as ever. I came here today as a prosecutor to seek only the truth, no more, no less. My theory is simply the result of a rational consideration of every possibility.
Objection!
But dismantling isn't the table's only function. It can make repairs as well. It's conceivable that Miss Sykes moved her under the table in order to fix her. I suppose that could be another way of interpreting it. But dismantle or repair, it doesn't matter either way. What do you mean? After murdering her mother, Miss Sykes may have come to her senses. Perhaps she will want to make it appear as if it never happened. And that's why she tried to repair her mother. Yes, that's one possible explanation. But we mustn't forget the facts of this case. The victim was observed to fall down after being hugged by the defendant, and the body was moved per the defendant's command. These two facts that indicate the defendant's guilt, remain unchanged. This just can't be true. Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to refute the prosecution's claim? Evidence? Right. Let's see. I can't think of any. I'm afraid I don't have any evidence. Since becoming chief prosecutor, I've learned that the truth isn't always pretty. Now accept the truth, Mr. Wright. Your subordinate murdered her own mother. Your Honor, the prosecution demands a verdict. The hostages have suffered enough. What a terrible and tragic conclusion. If the defense has no counter-argument, I see no need to further prolong this trial. Edgeworth's argument seems solid enough, but there's no way Athena could have ever done anything like that. What do I do? There has to be something, but I can't think of a single thing. Simon! Prosecutor Blackquill! This is quite the farce you are conducting here. I could die from laughter. Prosecutor Blackquill, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is that your argument is based on an entirely false premise. Go on, we're listening. Could this be the miracle I need? But what is Prosecutor Blackquill trying to pull here? 7 years. For 7 long years.
This case has been on my mind. Not for an instant did I not think of it. I'm the one who killed my mentor, and don't think you can alter that fact now. Your boldness, I will take to the stand, and I won't take no for an answer. Of course, Prosecutor Blackquill. Please go ahead.